Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days, talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 Days. With candor and reflection, I've written a behind-the-scenes account of that journey.
So evidently this week, former candidate and Vice President Kamala Harris made two big announcements. One, that she is not in fact going to be running to become the next governor of our state of California. But on the other hand, she is releasing a book, which is perhaps not as significant, but it's what she's focused on right now. Now, of course, we have theories as to why she is not going for the governorship, but Cenk, I wanted to run to you. What's your first crack at that? Why isn't she doing it?
Look, I give her credit for, in an ironic way here. Apparently she figured out that she would not win the governor's race if she ran, and it would be embarrassing, humiliating, and the end of her career. So hey, look at that, Kamala Harris with a correct decision. I've got a lot to say about that book in a minute, and I want to hear from you guys because I'm curious about this one. On the live chat, we're asking our viewers, should Kamala Harris run for president in 2028, yes or no? So interesting, I was wondering not whether it was going to be close, but whether anyone was going to vote yes. And 9% are voting yes, 91%. But you know what? That 9% might be Republicans. Like, oh yeah, run Kamala again. That'd be a great idea. Don't do that, okay? So I think she should retire, but we'll talk more about that in a second.
Yeah, she can run the primary if she wants. I think she might make some of the progressives look even bolder by comparison, maybe. But
yeah.
But anyway, why don't we turn now to what she has had to say about her thinking? And she was actually on Stephen Colbert's show last night, and Colbert asked her, once you left office, how long before you turned on the news again? And she said, months. You know, I'm just not into self-mutilation, lots of cooking shows, which of course is her choice. And I'm sure losing an election like that, when you have to be convinced that you have a very good chance of winning, has got to be difficult. That said, a lot was going on, and it just seems strange to go from like you're gonna lead the country to not even really paying attention to it. I get it, wellness and all that, but that does seem interesting. Anyway, he turned to the governorship thing. And she said, recently I made the decision that for now I don't want to go back into the system. I think it's broken. There are so many good people who are public servants, but you know, I believe, and I've always believed, that as fragile as our democracy is, our systems would be strong enough to defend our most fundamental principles. And I think right now that they're not as strong as they need to be. That's what she said, and I'm assuming that's the order that she said it in, because if they edited that, I am gonna sue them into the ground. But anyway, that's what she's saying. Now there is reporting that they'd really run the numbers and they thought she'd almost certainly be in the top 2. It's jungle primary state, but that then once it goes to a runoff potentially, then if there was a popular other Democrat and the voters of the Republicans joined with them, that maybe she would lose as a result of that. Others are saying that she just doesn't necessarily have the support of some of the donors who kind of think she's a reminder of this difficult time that we are still in and the last election. So there's a lot of potential arguments. Some might believe that she'd rather just kind of stay out of the public eye for a little bit and then come back in a couple years to potentially run for president. That's a thing that sometimes works in wrestling. You get injured, you come back a year later and you're way more popular than you were.
Well, the presumption we have also about politicians that isn't always correct is that that's all they want to do. There's a chance that she's just done too, that she's not going to run for president, she's not going to run for governor. She'd be the great head of a nonprofit, of something like that, which is very possible.
Yeah.
I think she probably would have been in the top 2 in the governor's race and may have been governor. I don't know. We will never know that. But she clearly decided to do that. As far as she could have been paying attention to politics. We name drop once in a while because we meet a lot of people here, but we all worked for former Vice President Gore, and I remember sitting and talking to him about after he bowed out and after he conceded the election, which was the toughest night of his life. He said I didn't turn on the television again for probably till the beginning of the summer, and that happened in December. He said I just couldn't bear it. I had no power anymore, and this person was running the country. it was both frustrating and I was still angry. Angry at myself, angry at the fact that this guy was president, talking about President Bush. Normal human reaction, I think, right? Especially when you're somebody who's been in the arena and you can't do anything anyway. And just by the tenor of this conversation, had Kamala Harris been injecting herself into every conversation for the past 5 months, this desk would be saying, get out of here, stop talking about it, go watch a cooking show, right? So we can't at the same time say, you don't watch the cooking shows. So I think there's a little bit of that. I don't know. Hers is not the most fascinating political life story that's out there right now, though it is. She did get the nomination for president. I think she might be done with politics, and that's okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, you made some good points, taking the wind out of my sail, Michael. I don't appreciate it. Okay,
I gotta leave.
Okay, so all right, real quick, a bunch of things. First, you made me realize. So Michael's referring to is that we worked at Current TV, right? So that was run by Al Gore, and he would come on the air with us. So it made me realize. Wait a minute, the Pod Save America guys are known as like the Obama boys, and that gave them huge hype, and everybody's talking. Why aren't we the Gore boys?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Okay, I don't know that I want that. Okay, but no, I really do respect Vice President Gore for a whole host of reasons. He was right about climate change. He actually did win that election when they recounted the state of Florida. He'd won the Electoral College as well as the popular vote, and of course he gave us the internet. So amazing. Okay, seriously though. I hear what Michael's saying, and I understand Gore and Kamala Harris's reaction. At the same time, I can't help but think like, if it was me, yeah, I'm in a lot of pain, but I gotta know what's going on in the news. How could you turn away from that? But okay, all right. So because Michael made that good point, I'll let that one slide. Back to the book. Even that video goes to the same exact theme about Kamala Harris, and to be fair to her, almost all politicians. Me. Like, you're writing a book about you, I get it, okay? But at the same time, like, that little video gave you no reason why you should care what's in the book. Like, she's not like, I solved it, here is why we lost, but what we need to do differently. Here's the policies this country needs. Here's what you gotta know about America or politics or the news, etc. No. Here is my 107 days, and it's my story. And obviously, you'll want to buy it because me.
Well, Cenk, I mean, she did run for president in an unusual election. She was the nominee of her party in an unusual way, and I don't feel any compulsion to defend her. But what's interesting about that is her. It's not about policy. Her ideas on policy were already rejected by more than half the country. So this is about what it's like to run for president in these circumstances. She's also probably being paid a lot of money for that book, and they said, we want you to go on social media and talk about the book and say what the book is. So everything doesn't have to be kind of like dug into in that way.
Nah.
She's not the standard bearer of the Democratic Party. She is not on policy. She lost an election. She lost it badly to somebody the Democrats can't believe they lost to again. And so are we really
going to learn from that book? How to lose an election?
I think I've learned something by the ad. It shows, I think, why she didn't win. She does something corrupt, like putting out a book. She should have done something presidential, like putting out NFTs or a Bible or guitars or sneakers.
Golden sneakers, okay?
So I'm going to learn from that book exactly what I want to learn from that book if I read it. I don't care what she says about policy. I don't care what she says about what the direction of the country should be. But I am very curious about. I kind of
want to read it now, honestly.
If she says, look, it's gonna. I mean, does any political book have a chance of being honest? Yeah, I think some do. I've read a lot of them, unfortunately, and you can really see which ones are honest. But they all have honest moments. And if I were to read that book, which I doubt I will, I'm interested to know what was going through her head when she became. Well, I mean, we don't know. We haven't read it. But I mean, like, if it's a journal of her presidential race, it's like, all of a sudden I'm the nominee. I didn't have a primary. I thought, whatever. I mean, all that's reflect. We're all thinking what we know about that, and have our opinions about her. But look, it's as much of a firsthand as you're going to get, and I think that's interesting at its very least. And again, I'm probably not going to read the book.
What will she say about Biden?
Okay, she's not going to say anything interesting. That's why she lost. She never says anything interesting. So that book is a disaster. And by the way, I think it'll do terribly because usually
it's a book.
Well, no, because Obama books do great, etc. But why do people buy them? Because they like Obama, and Obama won. So a lot of Democratic fanboys buy those books, right? Like, oh my God, Obama, right? With Kamala Harris, who's a fangirl at this point or a fanboy, right? Because she lost to Trump. And so I guess there'll be some Democratic loyalists who are like, I can't wait to see what Queen Bee said or whatever.
Political nerds who want to know what the person who was the last candidate for the Democratic Party for president has to say for a minute.
I think for some people who really like felt an attachment to her and everything has sucked since then, it'll probably be a little bit like, not cathartic's not the word, but like it's like a coping thing to like dwell in, it felt like there could have been something. It's like a way to return to a time, the last time where there was hope, kind of.
Yeah, okay, I guess. I mean, Joey Reid will read it to see what a flawless campaign looks like. By the way, there's like, the Biden people are chomping at the bit. This might be one of the reasons why she didn't run for governor, to release what now there's articles referring to as Palin-esque stories about Kamala Harris. So the Biden people hate Kamala Harris. And but the Biden people are mental. I'm not interested in those stories. She's irrelevant now. Stop trying to make it seem like Biden would have won and we shouldn't have had Kamala in. You're the one who picked her for vice president, okay? So what are you gonna like? So you see me. I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris in any way, shape, or form. But the Biden people are even worse. What are you gonna leak those old stories for? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So, last thing is just a fact check, quick correction. Michael said, look, all the political books are not really true. They're from the perspective of the politician. No, there is one that is true. Completely true. Donald Trump's book. Because it was a picture book. They were actual pictures. That's all that was in the book.
I thought I knew where that was going.
I thought I knew where that justice was coming. But yeah, and I didn't say that they're not all. I think that there are pieces of them, tons. That there's truth in a lot of them. You just have to sometimes, separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were.
Yeah, lots of chaff there. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.